Hello and welcome to Unacademy. I welcome you all to the Hindu analysis. And today we'll be discussing 6 to 7 important articles out of the Hindu newspaper. As the Prime Minister is in Japan, a lot of the news is about him itself. Now, before we begin, do remember that the 19,999 plus 12 months extension offer with CSC Assure is going to end tomorrow. So you have to use the code IAS English to be tagged to our team. Please do use this opportunity. Good morning to all of you. Now, yesterday a lot of you are asking for this. I was going to show it to you today. Today at 12 p.m. there will be the MCA, Monthly Current Affairs by Mukesh sir. He'll be talking about environment and ecology. And tomorrow at 12 p.m. Chetan sir will be discussing the international relations related, you can say, monthly current affairs. A roundup. This is for Sunday. And this is for today, which is Saturday. Please do note, and I hope that you will join them for the roundup of the monthly current affairs of environment, ecology, and international relations. Right. Now, let's look at the topics which we have to cover. The first one is the most interesting and the heaviest also, which is the concept of energy sovereignty and energy security. Then we have the GST Council meeting coming through. So something related to that, a very interesting development happening in the background. We have GDP data coming through. We'll discuss this in the end because these three topics are related to one another, which is the Prime Minister in Japan. And we'll end with the Bihar Cabinet. Because it's a Saturday newspaper, there is no text and context, there's no FAQ. FAQ will come tomorrow. And in the editorials, there were two editorials. One, the first one I've taken. The second one was out of context, something based on a random lottery system in entrance examinations, and what it was not written by, you can say, authors which would pertain to our understanding. So out of the two editorials, the one which is the most important has been taken here. So good morning. If I have everybody's consent, I would like to start now, which is, this is a big topic and I would like to break it down properly. Very well written article. Very important for GS paper 3, energy security and the concept of energy sovereignty. Can we start? Yes. Good morning, good morning, good morning to all of you. Yes, sir. Okay, Neelam says yes, sir. Okay. Now, this topic is based on a very interesting premise, which is unstable world, energy sovereignty is the new oil. Now, let me break down this whole concept for you because this article basically has three parts. First is the problem statement. Then he talks about five moments which have shaped energy security as we know it today. And then he talks about 5 way forwards for India in its energy security and sovereignty path. So basically, this is an article which is written like a mains answer itself. There's an introduction, there's a body, and there is a way forward. So very well written article that ways and very resource rich also for your examination. So let's now break it down properly into the three parts and let's discuss each one of them properly. The first statement or the introductory understanding is India is obviously crude oil and natural gas dependent. When it comes to energy, India is dependent, and that means that in this world of geopolitics, dependency with regards to energy and fossil fuel is a national security threat. Therefore, with regards to this concept, the idea is that energy is a national risk because every barrel which we bring in can be an asset, a liability, but bringing it in could be a liability itself. So this is not something out of the box. We all know that India has a lot of resources, but when it comes to fossil fuel, we are dependent on external sources. Now, the argument which he pushes is that in this current geopolitical, you can say, understanding, Iran and Israel, this excursion, this, you can say, conflict which did not become a war but was also a war, is a very important moment for India to now consider its energy path and energy needs in that regard. But he says that there are 5 other moments in history, in the recent past, which have shaped the understanding of what we call as energy sovereignty and energy security. So, he is trying to establish that Iran-Israel is our wake-up call because there have been 5 wake-up calls previously. We are energy dependent. We are external, you can say, sources based dependent when it comes to the crude oil and natural gas. Therefore, what are the moments which shaped our understanding and why is Iran-Israel a wake-up call for us? Now, he says that in the 1970s, the first wake-up call came in the oil embargo which happened in the Arab sector. Not the Gulf War. Gulf War is 1990s. When the Arab oil embargo when the US was not given oil by the Arab states, this led to this understanding of how global supply chain works and the concept of petroleum reserves and strategic reserves along with the concept of diversification of what is called as energy resources came through. So the West learned the concept of strategic reserve and oil reserves and diversification from the 73 oil embargo on the US. Thereafter, between 1973 to 2011, there has been, this is again the author, not me, 2011, there was a lot of push for renewable. And within renewable, nuclear became a very important understanding. Though nuclear is not properly renewable energy, but it's an alternative fuel, but nuclear used to be the buzzword. Chernobyl was one wake-up call, but in 2011, the Fukushima nuclear disaster, which happened because of a tsunami, made nuclear non-desirable and the buzzword and the buzz around nuclear went out. Now, though nuclear is again coming back, the nuclear-based power buzz was broken through Fukushima. So here, everybody understood that we need to diversify, we need to have strategic oil reserves. This will break the nuclear myth. The nuclear myth will be busted. Then he argues that the focus shifted away from the concept of just fuel to infrastructure because of the 2021 Texas freeze. In Texas, what happened was because of extremely low temperatures and because of the way the infrastructure was made, all the gas pipelines froze and turbines stopped. And this gave an understanding that not just the fuel should be diversified, the infrastructure should be resilient. Cost effectiveness should not take away resilience. Thereafter, he says that in 2022, Russia-Ukraine was another wake-up for the West and for us, wherein because the EU was energy dependent for natural gas on Russia, there was a inflation in the oil prices, inflation in gas prices, and from this point, what happens is coal again becomes important. Coal makes a comeback. That no, we should not use only one fuel. And the last major wake-up call, according to him, came in 2025 from the Iberian Peninsula, which is Portugal and Spain. They had an interconnected renewable energy-based grid. But what happened was that because of the failure of the renewable energy grid, sufficient backups were not there and the concept of breakdowns became important. What about when renewable energy does not work? So, according to him, India is energy dependent. Now, if it is energy dependent, 5 moments teach us 5 very important lessons. The first lesson was you should always have strategic reserves. Strategic reserves and the concept of diversification cannot be reliant on one country. Second thing was nuclear has fallouts. Third was that infrastructure should be robust. Fourth was you need to coal is equally important. And last was what is the backup when renewable fails. Very, as I said, very well written article. Now, do you understand why did he talk about the 5 moments? Based on oil embargo, Fukushima, Texas freeze, based on Russia, Ukraine, and based on the concept of what happened in the Iberian Peninsula, he has come up with 5 very important lessons. 5 lessons to be learned. Energy dependency of India is very important, and therefore 5 lessons are there. Now he gives a reality check. Reality check is fossil fuel still 80% of all global primary demand is met by fossil fuel. 90% of all transportation is still on hydrocarbons. Solar and wind still only 10%. There is a very sharp fall in exploration of oil, but there is a lot of vulnerabilities when it comes to global supply chain. And he comes up with a very interesting line, which I've given you as a question also, which is energy security is no longer a climate policy decision. It is a survival strategy. It is a national security threat. So let me summarize what has happened till this point. India is energy dependent. Plus 80% of all global demand still met by coal or fossil fuels. 10% only on renewable energy and 90% still all hydrocarbon based transportation. This is the problem statement. 5 mistakes gave us 5 lessons. Infra is important. Coal is equally important. What about backup? And nuclear is not the answer. Diversify. Plus, you also need reserves. Do we understand till this point? Energy security falls hostage to geopolitics. That is true. Do we understand this point? This much you should understand, which is what is the problem statement and what are the lessons to be learned. Then he gives you the solution also. These are the 5 mistakes, 5 moments which changed everything. I want everybody's consent here. Yes, sir. We are understanding the train of thought of the author, and you can basically use any of these 5 moments to answer a very good question or a very difficult question in the examination. Yes, perfect. Now, according to him, because energy security equals to national security, equals to survival strategy, 5 pillars should be developed based on 3 principles, which is domestic capacity, should be taken into consideration, diversified technology should be there, and resilient system should be there. Basically, this is the lesson to be learned out of 5 moments. Out of 5 moments. Now, the solutions which he's giving is equally interesting, and he's giving 5 pillars on which our energy security should be there. 5 pillars. Now, these 5 pillars are given in a paragraph form, little bit complicated. Again, I have simplified it for you so that you can use it for the examination in the best way possible. Now, what are the 5 pillars? The first pillar on which India should develop its energy security over and above coal and fossil fuel, according to him, is coal gasification. First is coal gasification. Coal gasification allows us to use the coal which we already have. Problem is that our domestic coal is not that high carbon content, but still we can use it. Allows for a plethora of things to be produced through coal gasification. You get syngas, you get methanol or methane, and you also get hydrogen. So therefore, good fuel can allow us to become self-reliant, and we can use our coal reserves better. But the question is, I said coal gasification. Do you understand what is coal gasification? Do you understand what is coal gasification? The answer would be either yes or no, but the no is more important to me than the yes. So let's do one thing. Let's revise each of these components also. What is coal gasification? What is these concepts? So, see, the concept of coal gasification is very easy, which is you take coal, now pay attention. You take coal, you add water, and you add oxygen into a certain, you can say, gasifier. In this process, coal, this can be done naturally also in coal reservoirs. It can be done in factories also. And when it is burnt in this concept, it gives you a plethora of, you can say, different forms of gases and byproducts. See, a thermal power plant just burns coal to produce steam out of water, then you can say use the turbines or the dynamo to produce electricity. That is a waste of the coal's energy. So put the coal with water and oxygen into a gasifier. It will produce for you heat which you can use for electricity, but you can also produce H2S gas, you can produce methanol, you can produce methyl acetate and different other compounds along with hydrogen, which can be used as alternative fuels. So therefore, coal can then be used to produce alternative fuels, energy and gases, which can be then used as input into chemical plants. So this is basically a better use of coal. So he argues that India has to invest on coal gasification. India has a very good coal reserve, but that needs to be used better. But our coal is low efficiency. You need high efficiency coal. So there may be a need to, in a way, enrich the coal. That's a separate issue altogether. The second pillar on which he wants us to build on is biofuels. Under biofuels, he believes that this can lead to national security and the concept of rural empowerment. We already have ethanol blending, which is happening in our petrol. E10 is already there. E20 is going to come through very, very soon. It is implemented in multiple states already in, you can say, pilot per program in that regard. He says that we need to also pay attention to the SATAT scheme. I'll tell you what it is. This will allow our farmers to produce fuel for us. Fuel for us. Now, what is the SATAT scheme, which is Sustainable Alternative Towards Affordable Transportation Scheme. In this, the Government of India invests in production of compressed biogas as a sustainable fuel, and the ministry has been pushing the private sector into sustained biogas, or what is called as sustainable compressed biogas. Now the question is, what is biogas? Now biogas is produced by the anaerobic digestion of livestock waste, crop waste, water waste and food waste. Anything which is organic waste can be put into a digester in anaerobic conditions, meaning oxygen is removed. It then produces biogas, which can be used for heat and electricity. At the same point of time, it produces biomethane. All of this is static science and technology and environment. Whatever I'm discussing with you is pure static. But I'm refreshing your memory of each of these pillars so that you have an understanding in that regard. So first was coal gasification. Second is biogas, and the scheme on biogas, compressed biogas, is in a pilot program running in Punjab quite well, wherein because of livestock waste is quite a lot, the piped program of using biogas, centralized biogas production and then piped transmission is working quite well there. Then the third, he says, is we have to resurrect nuclear energy, because nuclear energy still is a very good option vis-a-vis the concept of how we are using our energy and energy resources. It is stagnant at 8.8 gigawatt. We can increase that. Russia is a good partner for us. Rosatom can help us in producing what we call as cleaner path in that regard. Uranium enrichment is an issue. We have a lot of thorium reserves, but we should be able to take uranium out of thorium. But uranium and its supply is a separate issue altogether. NPT and all comes through. But we should be able to, and we should further develop our nuclear power. Then, this everybody knows. Fourth is what is called as green hydrogen. This is very interesting. Hydrogen as an alternative fuel is being talked about. Lexus and multiple Honda, even different companies in the US, in India also, we have hydrogen-driven cars, hydrogen-driven buses. But hydrogen, how it is produced is very important. Meaning, if you are doing hydrolysis, which is the water is being split up into oxygen and hydrogen through fossil fuels, it is not green hydrogen, it is not carbon neutral. So what the author argues is that we need to bring in harness green hydrogen, which is produce electricity through renewable energy. First produce electricity through renewable energy, then use that energy to make hydrogen in an hydrolysis process, and then dispatch it and use it in energy or as an energy resource. This is called green hydrogen because the source itself is green, meaning the electricity needed for hydrolysis or electrolysis is basically coming out of renewable energy. So he says green hydrogen is very, very important. This will allow us to then further develop our resources better, has a very good potentiality to become an alternative fuel. I will obviously bring everything together into one slide, into a mind map. Don't worry. I know some of you are scratching your head what is happening. Last pillar which he talks about is pumped hydro storage. This is a very interesting one because people have mostly discounted for and now argue that hydroelectricity and dams are wasteful, meaning first you submerge a lot of land, there's a lot of displacement, the whole Narmada Bachao Andolan. It is also very, very, you can say, disaster prone, meaning if it's in the seismic zones, it can further lead to the dam becoming a disaster risk in itself. But there is a new technology which is being talked about nowadays, and we need to focus on it now, which is called pumped hydropower storage, which is the concept of having two reservoirs, meaning one reservoir on a height, you don't need to cut the landscape for that, and one reservoir in the lower lying areas, basically using the potential and the kinetic energy of water. So the concept is you take the water from the stored potential energy which is on the top, run it through pipes into a motor or a dynamo, produce electricity and release the water into the lower reservoir. Now the problem is that there will come a time that the water imbalance will happen water will reduce here and water will increase too much here. So the concept is using the same motor and using the same excess electricity which is produced, you pump back the water into the upper reservoir and then basically start to then again repeat the process. So the concept is that first you use the water to produce electricity and then you use the electricity to pump back the water, making it self-sufficient in a way. So that is why you can see two, red and green. When it is green, going down, it is producing electricity. When it is red, it is using electricity to basically generate, basically mix or balance the water in that way. His argument is if India is able to invest and develop in all five of these technologies, India will be able to then become energy, you can say self-sufficiency will come through, reliance will increase, and therefore, or rather reliance will decrease, and therefore India can then become energy secure, therefore survival strategy. Now, I've talked about a lot of things. If you allow me, I would like to now bring everything onto one slide. I would like to make the mind map, which I always make for you, so that you can use this information in the best way possible for the examination. I hope you've been able to follow the arguments which have been pushed. I told you this is the only heavy article today, but a very interesting one, very, very rich for a UPSC aspirant. Yes, sir? Okay, great. Now, let's make our mind right. Energy security, not just economic, but national security. What is the problem? The problem is India is energy dependent. It has 80% of all its fuel is imported. And here comes the issue, which is global, you can say supply chain. Supply chain. Supply chain, it is vulnerable to conflicts. So therefore, energy security should be shock resistant. But there have been 5 major shocks. That gives us a roadmap. That gives us a roadmap. Anybody has any issue in this slide? Voice issue should not be there. Anybody has any issue here? Understanding the premise of the article. No, sir? Very good. Okay. Now, 5 shocks, 5 lessons, 5 way forwards. The first is based on the concept of diversification, the concept of energy reserves. The second one was based on nuclear power fallout. The third one is based on infrastructure resilience, or rather we'll say infrastructure should be robust. Fourth, coal should not be fully phased out. And fifth is backup for renewable failure. I think everybody follows this understanding also. 5 shock, 5 lessons, 5 way forwards, what we should do, right? Should not be fully phased out, right? On the same supply chain would mean that where are you getting the coal from or the fuel from? How is it transported? How is it stored? Right? Now, resilience, or as we say, 5 new pillars, or rather 5 pillars of New India's energy security. I have now basically given you 3 main slides on which the whole summary is there. First is coal gasification. Second is biofuels. Third is nuclear. Fourth is the concept of green hydrogen. Green hydrogen. And last but not the least is reservoir pumped hydropower. Pumped hydropower. Sorted, everyone. Now you have an understanding of what basically the article wants you to understand. This is the problem statement. This is the lessons to be learned. And this is the alternative which can basically help us go forward as we go ahead. Right? Perfectly fine. Now, can you answer this question? In the current geopolitical environment, energy security is no longer climate policy decision. It is a survival strategy. Explain, and can you now then also elucidate on what should be the policy, what should be the mitigation, and anything related to this plus this should be easily answered. Yes? Because this is where sometimes the articles are extremely comprehensive. This is one such article which was extremely comprehensive. Very good resource for you generally. Right? Okay. Can I move on to the next article? Anybody has any issue in any terminology used here? Be it gasification, be it the concept of shocks. All should be fine. Yes, sir, you can move on. Okay. Now, the context of this article, sir, when we write about energy security, it is imperative to express our inclination towards renewable green and green future that upholds. Yes, always. Conclude on that remark. Always, always. That will always be good. Always. Okay. Now, the context is very simple. 5, 12, 18, 28. These are the 4 main brackets of GST as of right now. 4 main bracket of GST. Some cases 15% is also there. 5, 12, 15, 18, 28. Now, the government of India is planning to remove 18% and make 2 major slabs, removing 12 and 28, and make 5 and 18 the most important, not 18 rather. They want to remove 12 and 28. So the argument which is being pushed through is government wants to do what is called as percentage or rate or slab rationalization. Slab rationalization means they want to keep either things in 5% or in 18%. They are thinking of removing these two, 12 and 28. And they are proposing a new bracket which is called 40% for sin goods and luxury goods. For sin goods and luxury goods. Right. So as of right now, the center has proposed of removing 12 and 28, wants to introduce 5 and 18, rather wants to reshuffle all the items into 5 and 18 and introduce 40% for cigarettes, tobacco, gutka and luxury items such as business class tickets or high-end services or luxury cars in that regard. Now, this is the proposed concept. Remove the 2 slabs, make it 3 slab concept. Rationalization means simplify it. So simplification is happening. Now, use your basic understanding and logic. Tell me one thing. If any item which is moved from 12 to 5, it is a loss to the state or a gain to the state? Previously was 12%. Now is in 5%. They will lose money, they will gain money. They will lose money. Anything which was in 28 is pushed into 18, again it will lose money. Now, this loss is now being considered by the states as a problem. What the states are arguing specifically, the GST Council is going to meet on 3rd and 4th September. And this rationalization has created a stir in 8 states. Himachal, Jharkhand, Karnataka, Kerala, Punjab, Tamil Nadu, Telangana and West Bengal. What is common is that these are all non-BJP states. But all have met together to argue that there is a fallout. There is already a fallout in the GST compensation. There is already a delay in that. We will lose out with rationalization in a lot of contexts. Wherever there will be reduction in slab from 12 to 8 and from 28, from 12 to 5 and 28 to 18, we will lose out money and our share within the GST will reduce. That will give us less money. That will in turn lead to a cascading effect and will drastically hamper the development of these, you can say, states. States are saying that we are more dependent on GST than the center because center has its own direct taxes, large dividends, customs, excise duties, cesses and surcharges. So therefore, what should we do? So the premise of the article is very simple. There will be rationalization. We have to see if the GST Council takes this decision or not. There will be only 5 and the concept of 5, 18 and 40. 5, 18 and 40%. And with this, there will be revenue loss. In that context, states are saying, what about us? And the proposed solution as of right now, is a cess or surcharge on this 40%, on sin goods, And that cess and surcharge should go directly to the states. This should be able to compensate the losses. So basically the solution is add more cess here so that we can basically make up for 12% gone in that sense. Again, this article is projective, meaning it is proposed. We don't know if it will happen or not. I'm just telling you what these 8 states have come together and have argued. Their argument is we will lose out money. You please give us a cess and surcharge, which you collect, but is directly transferred to us. There should be no way in which you take any share. Because it is coming from opposition states, there is a chance that it may be banned. But the idea is there is rationalization for sure. So we'll be back with this topic once on 5th, 6th, you will have a better picture about this. Sorted, everyone? Nothing out of the box here. Anushka, that is a separate issue altogether. That is not the prerogative of the Finance Commission. This is purely GST Council's territory and jurisdiction. Finance Commission will not take a call on GST. Right? Okay. Now there were 3 articles in the Hindu newspaper which basically dealt with the Prime Minister in Japan. First, he talked about India becoming the 3rd largest economy very, very soon. That's a dig on Trump. Then a pact has happened in what is called as energy security and energy zones. Very interesting joint sharing mechanism is there. We'll talk about that. And there's also the idea that India, China should come together because they're the 2 biggest economies, 2 biggest countries as per population. They control the global economic order. The US doesn't. So there's subtext to basically undercut what the US is saying. But for you and me, this rhetoric doesn't really matter. What matters is 3 very important decisions which have been taken in Tokyo as of right now. The first one is that defense and economy. Defense and economy are 2 zones which they want to concentrate on. And defense, already Japan has cooperation with regards to Quad, but 1-to-1 bilateral defense agreements are being talked about now. This is the first thing. Second thing is there is a new India-Japan AI initiative which has been talked about, where both these countries will come together to promote AI in supply chain resilience, in pharmaceuticals, in critical minerals, and new energy technologies. So this is the second thing, which is AI has emerged as an important point of convergence. Third, they are also talking about having a certain, you can say, interaction for small and medium enterprises. So therefore, the idea is both the countries should support their small and medium enterprises. So these are 3 very important decisions which were taken: AI, defense, and small and medium enterprises. Thereafter, this is the most important and you should concentrate here, which is India has signed an MOU to join Japan's joint crediting mechanism, JCM. Please remember this very clear. JCM can come as a term. What is JCM is very, very important. See, Japan has limited resources, limited land, is very prone to what is called as disasters. It has already maxed out its renewable energy, you can say, potentiality in the best way possible, but it still wants to reduce its carbon footprint. So the idea is called joint crediting mechanism, wherein Japan, specifically its own understanding, will implement low carbon technologies in developing countries, which is India, and the resulting, you can say, reduction in carbon is going to be credited to Japan's account when it comes to carbon credit. So it's a carbon credit system based understanding, and this will allow for 2 things to happen. India will get technology transfer, investment, and you can say skill to implement low carbon technologies, renewable technologies, and Japan in that regard at the world stage can then claim this carbon credit to further develop in that regard. So therefore, This JCM is good. It's a good step. In order, it will help India get the technology it wants and Japan get the carbon credits for its own development. So, as of right now, as we speak, first is defense, second is AI, third is the concept of small and medium enterprises, and fourth is JCM. This you have to remember, joint crediting mechanism. They set up plants which are renewable energy based. They get the credit, India gets the technology, India gets the jobs. This is a very good development in that regard. I think we all can agree to that. Now, before I go to the last two topics, let's do a roundup of what we've done. Can I do that? Can I consolidate the past 50 minutes into this small packet which you can then use to also run through what we are trying to do here? Yes? Yes, sir. Very good, sir. Okay. Now, we have discussed energy security. We have discussed 5 mistakes or 5 shocks. Infra, nuclear, diversification, the concept of coal not being phased out, and what is the backup. And we discussed 5 new India pillars: coal gasification, biofuels, nuclear, green hydrogen, and the concept of pumped hydroelectricity. Then we tried to understand Japan, JCM, small and medium enterprises, the concept of India and Japan defense, and AI. This is what we discussed. Till this point, substantially 2 big topics. And GST rationalization, 5, 18, 40. Let us see what happens. This is a projected topic. Yes. Now, the data which has come with regards to the GDP for the first quarter of this fiscal year has been very encouraging at 7.8%. Now, if you look at this data vis-a-vis last 4 quarters, this is 8.4, 6.5, 5.6, 6.4, 7.4, 7.8. So what really matters to you is this trend, which is from September 2024 quarter, there has been a rise in the quarterly growth rate of the GDP. Gross domestic product as released by the Ministry of Statistics and Programming Implementation, vis-a-vis the same quarter last year, it is lower. It is lower obviously from 8.4 to 7.8. But between last year March and this year March and this June, you can say there has been a lot which has changed. But the idea is very simple. This is a good encouraging development. But the problem is not despite tariff. Monu, I was coming to. Now we don't know what is going to happen to tariff, because tariff implementation has happened in this quarter. So till last quarter, we were all fine. This quarter is going to take a hit. Now let us see GDP growth. Where does it go from 7.8%? Now you will say, sir, but how did India perform so well? What are the reasons for India to perform so well? Or what drove this rise? That came from different sectors. Again, try to simplify it. Manufacturing vis-a-vis last year showed 7.8% growth. This is going to go down because of tariff for sure. So growth acceleration in manufacturing, but this will go down for sure. Tariff is not being taken into account. This is going to be interesting once we discuss the same thing after 3 months. Construction 7.6. This has gone down, but still is moderate growth. Electricity, gas, water supply, utility services. Again, major deceleration, but still in the positive. Services, all combined sector, there has been a rise from last year, wherein 6.8 to 9.3%. This has been a strong driver of the growth itself. Public administration, defense and other services has been more or less constant. Financial, real estate and professional services, we have good 9% growth. Trade, hotel and communication, again 8.6%. The idea is these are the 4 or 5 sectors which are actually driving growth properly. First, services, public administration, real estate and trade, transport and communication. These are the 4 which are at the highest 2-year high, which is keeping it high. But we know that this is going to take a hit for sure, because once the tariffs are going to come through, we already know which sectors will be affected. Can anybody tell me which sectors have we discussed over the past 2 days which are going to be impacted most by the 50% tariff? Can you tell me 1/3 to half sectorial contribution? What are those 3 to 4 sectors which are going to be impacted the most? Shri says textile, very good. Textile, yes, shrimps and gems and jewelry, along with carpets. Remember yesterday's class, no short-term Gajini effect, that I don't remember what happened yesterday. These are the 4 sectors which will be impacted the most. This is what we discussed. And textile, being a very important part of manufacturing, is going to take a hit very quickly. It's going to take a hit. So let's see what happens. But this is the data which you should know generally. This was in the news. Good development, positive development. But let's see if it is going to hold or not. If it is going to hold on. The last discussion which we need to have is a Bihar specific scheme. Obviously, election season schemes, this and that. Bihar has launched, or the Bihar Cabinet has launched, Mukhyamantri Mahila Rozgar Yojana. And this Yojana is going to give one woman in every family a certain amount, which is 10,000 rupees, as the first installment to start a business of her choice. If she is able to sustain that business, further next 6 months, she can get additional 2 lakh rupees. And therefore, they will try to support the woman in her entrepreneurship. Now, you tell me one thing. Is this what Bihar actually needs? Is this what actually Bihar needs? Supporting elite entrepreneurship within women. Women don't have access to education in Bihar. Women do not have access to healthcare in Bihar. Women do not have access to proper forms of, you can say, institutional support in Bihar. But what we are trying to support is the woman who already is actually very, very educated. She is actually getting support to start her own business. Good system. If this was given to self-help groups, it would have been better. But let's see. Let us see. The simple straightforward point is all of this is election agenda. This is what Rozgar is being given. Whose account it will go at the grassroots level, what will happen is a separate issue altogether. But Bihar Cabinet is saying this is going to become very, very significant for the development of Bihar. So simple, straightforward, good initiative, but maybe not the, you can say, rather they could have funded the process of enumeration into SIR as of right now, but that's a separate issue altogether. Right. Now, before we end this session, let's do a roundup. We've discussed 5 shocks, 5 new alternative fuels: coal gasification, biofuels, CG, CG, coal gasification, biofuels, the concept of green hydrogen, the concept of nuclear, and we've discussed the concept of pumped hydroelectricity. We've discussed rationalization of GST. We have also discussed the concept of AI initiatives, small and medium enterprises, the most important JCM between India and Japan. We've discussed the concept of the GDP growth and which sectors are taking it higher. And we've also discussed Bihar Mukhyamantri Mahila Yojgar Yojana, and basically these were the topics out of the Saturday newspaper which were important for you. I hope this has been comprehensive enough, and I will see you soon with another set of issues. But for today, this is enough. I hope you will join Mukesh sir at 12. I have basically ended this session, at least you can say, giving you an hour to cool down, understand, and use that session in the best way possible rather than extending it beyond 11. So I hope that you will use this 1 hour to have your breakfast and be ready for the MCA at 12. Thank you. Take care.